Hey guys, welcome back. I think this video is going to be kind of a vlog or an opinion piece. Not sure. I generally don't do vlogging videos, but I'm kind of in between projects, so I want to talk about motor oil. In the last couple of videos, you've seen me change oil in a couple of different snowblowers, and I've used a couple of different oils. There are many opinion pieces and vlogs out there, and people who recommend one oil or the other, talking about synthetic versus conventional. So what oil should you use in your outdoor power equipment? Well, I guess the answer is it depends. First and foremost, you should basically check with the owner's manual of whatever piece of equipment you are servicing, and you can't go wrong with what it recommends. So let's get into which of these oils is right. Well, there are a couple questions that you should ask first. Are you the kind of person who generally sticks to the maintenance schedule? Now, by maintenance schedule, I mean what they have in the user manual. So when I say maintenance schedule, so this is the maintenance schedule for the lawnmower. This schedule says change oil every 25 hours or season. So if you use the mower less than 25 hours in a season, you should change it every season. If you use it more than 25 hours in a season, which is very possible, you should change it twice a season or 3 times a season. And there are some footnotes here. So if, change the oil more often if operating under a heavy load or in high outdoor temperatures. So, anybody who's operating down south in high temperatures, or if you are in a dusty condition. A lot of mowers get used in very dusty conditions. So are you changing your oil at least once a season, if not twice or 3 times a season? If the answer is yes, then I don't think it makes a difference what kind of oil you use. If you're sticking to that maintenance schedule rigorously, you can use the cheapest conventional oil that you can find, and it will do you just fine. All of these oils meet all of the automotive specifications that the American Petroleum Institute puts out. So you can see right here that this oil meets API service SN, and SN is the particular specification that the American Petroleum Institute says that a motor oil has to meet. And you can go look it up or whatever. This very cheap conventional oil, if you see, it also meets the exact same American Petroleum Institute service standard, SN. So in that regard, these two oils are, will work. Same with that one, that Valvoline back there. They all meet a minimum specification that the API puts out. Does that mean that all 3 of these oils are equal? None are better than the other, or none are worse? No, that's not what that means. The synthetics tend to go above and beyond the standard, and they have so every oil, in order to get the multi-viscosity grade, so 5W30, means it acts like a SAE 5 weight oil at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it's 0, and it acts like an SAE 30 grade oil at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what those 2 numbers mean. So cold, winter, and hot, or operating. And in order to get that kind of number, the multi-viscosity grade numbers, you have to have a bunch of additives, viscosity index improvers, in the oil in order to get the oil to behave like that at those 2 different temperatures. So every oil starts out as a base oil, and then a bunch of a cocktail of viscosity index improvers and anti-corrosion inhibitors and anti-wear inhibitors and detergents are added. So a whole cocktail, a whole suite of additives are added to the oil, and most of those are pretty proprietary, so it's hard to analyze specifically what those are, and it's hard to quantify exactly how those perform relative to each other, but all three of these oils have a cocktail of additives added to them to get them to perform as a multi-viscosity oil. Now, for synthetic oils, that cocktail is probably a little bit better, I would venture to say, and also the base oil is better for synthetics. So a synthetic base oil is a more highly refined oil whose molecules are probably are more slippery and are just a better lubricant overall. So synthetic oils are probably less likely to break down. So over time, between oil changes, the viscosity index improvers and the cocktail of additives that they put in start to break down, and the base oil itself starts to break down as well. And you lose some of that viscosity. So in the end, instead of a 5W30, you may be left at the end of the oil change with a 0W20 or something like that instead of the 5W30 you originally put in, because the base oil and the additives are breaking down. But with synthetics, that happens slower. They're more resistant to breakdown. They continue to lubricate better for longer. The conclusion that we can draw from that is if you are following the manufacturer's recommended oil change intervals under all conditions, you're probably not going to, there's probably not going to be any difference between this and this. Now, does everybody do that? No. In fact, I don't even do that myself. I sometimes, I have a lot of outdoor power equipment, and sometimes it goes 2 seasons without being changed. So if you are not following the manufacturer's recommended oil change interval, if you're stretching it a little longer or putting a little more hours on it than they recommend, then I highly recommend going with synthetic in a piece of outdoor power equipment. Same with the car. If you're going to go, more than 5,000 miles between an oil change, you should probably use synthetic because it's more resistant to breakdown than conventional oil. Another reason to use synthetic is that there are many tests out there on the internet and YouTube where people have taken synthetic and conventional oils of the same grade and done tests with them, pour tests, cold viscosity tests, where they will put the oil in a freezer and then pour them out and see which one flows better. Synthetic always performs better. Synthetic always flows better at colder temperatures than conventional oil. That's proven. So for all situations in a snowblower, I would recommend a synthetic oil because snowblowers are generally used in a very cold environment, sometimes very much below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So a synthetic oil is going to cause less wear when you first start up the engine, because that oil is going to be thinner and it's going to be able to be flung around the crankcase a lot easier than a very thick oil. So imagine take the analogy, if you were using honey versus olive oil, right? And you put a spoon in there and started flinging it around. The honey would stick to everything. It wouldn't really fling. It wouldn't really coat very well when it's cold. But the olive oil, even when it's cold, is still very fluid, and it can be flung around and will still coat everything. It's the same thing with a synthetic versus a conventional oil. The conventional oil, until it starts getting warmer, is going to have a hard time being flung around there and coat all of your surfaces. It's going to have a hard time getting into the valve chamber and coat your valve springs and your lifters and all of that. So for a snowblower, I always recommend a synthetic oil over a conventional. For a lawnmower or a piece of summer equipment, rototiller, lawnmower, pressure washer, that kind of thing, I really don't think it makes too big of a difference as long as you stick to the manufacturer's recommended oil change interval. Some people say that synthetic oils, they are more prone to leaking from an engine. Well, That's true because the oil flows better. It has better flow characteristics than a conventional oil, so it's going to get through smaller cracks in your seals and things like that. So it's a myth that synthetic oil causes an oil leak. If you put synthetic oil in a motor and it starts leaking, that means you already had a bad seal somewhere. Okay, so whether it's a crank seal or a valve seal or something like that, that means it was already going bad to begin with. Synthetic does not cause an engine leak. It just highlights an engine leak that you already have that may not be showing up as badly with a conventional oil. So there's nothing inherently bad about using a synthetic oil in a small engine. If the seals are good, if everything is good with the engine, if the engine is in good condition, you're not going to be you're going to actually be helping the engine. You're not going to be doing any harm. If the engine is already damaged and it's already on its way out, then the synthetic oil may highlight some of those shortcomings. Like if the piston rings are not seating properly in the cylinder, if you have an excessive ring gap or something like that, this is going to highlight that because you're going to be burning more oil. You're going to be leaking oil, but it's not causing that. Case in point, this is a 23-year-old snowblower in the background there, and I used this high mileage Mobil 1 5W30 fully synthetic oil in it. I used it in the snow. I snow blew with it. It has been sitting like that with this in it for probably 3 weeks now, and there is no oil leaking from it anywhere. So, you know, that is an engine where the manual certainly doesn't recommend synthetic oil, and synthetic oils were just coming into existence when that engine was manufactured. But it is doing perfectly fine with synthetic oil now. There are no leaks, you know, nothing is leaking, no crankshaft seals are leaking, no valve leakage or anything like that. It's not burning oil, so it's doing just fine. So that's probably enough of me rambling on about different kinds of oils and in different kinds of outdoor power equipment. This is just an opinion piece. Everybody has their own opinions on oil and what you should and shouldn't use in any given vehicle or piece of equipment. And if you feel like you want to, you know, leave a comment and give your opinion, then you can do so down below. And if you like these videos, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you on the next one.